Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have in our midst eminent panelists who have greatly distinguished themselves in their chosen professions. I would like to call up on stage Shri Chandra Prakash Dwivedi, actor and filmmaker. Dr. Hongita Gogoi, Department of History, Mongoldo College. Professor Rajiv Hondikoi, Department of History, Guwahati University. Dr. Vikram Sampath, eminent author. And Shri Rajesh Kumar Singh, filmmaker and critic. I'd now request Professor Dr. Noni Gopal Mohanto to kindly initiate the discussion. A humble request to all present, please be seated till the panel discussion gets over. Thank you so much.
নমস্কাৰ শ্ৰদ্ধাস্পদ সুধীবৃন্দ সকলোকে আদৰ সম্ভাষণ জনাইছো Please allow me to continue in English and in between also we can use Ohomia for the benefit of our audience. After a highly accomplished seminar on the Ahom saga of hope, skills and courage yesterday, today we have assembled here to deliberate on another important issue being ignored historiography of Assam's assertion. To discuss various contours of ignored historiography, we have with us an eminent panel and experts who have carved a niche for themselves in various fields. Well, before I call upon our galaxy of talents, I would like to take the opportunity to flag off certain important issues for your kind consideration. First, as has been argued by various scholars like Dr. Vikram Sampath, Sanjeev Sanyal, and others, the history of hunt has been told from the perspective of hunters. We are always presented as a nation of losers, the defeated ones. The process has gone undetected in the post-independence phase. Rather, we highlighted the histories of those who had subjugated us by incorporating their role in one chapter to another in our history book. Such one-sided neglected the elasticity, valor, grit, guts, and gallantry of Bharatiya civilizational saga and heritage. The great empires of Bharat like the Satavahanas, the Cholas, the Marathas, the Ahoms, the Vijayanagar Empire, the great maritime tradition of Eastern India were almost obliterated from our memories. The Ahoms comprise an inalienable part of that glorious tradition. These empires never formed a part of our so-called history tradition in the post-independence period. Overemphasis on a disjointed, ruptured, and colonial mindset has prevented us from telling us the people's history. Lasit Borphukan is a part of that people's history. The contribution of the Ahoms and Kamrup can tell us, and the way we have treated them, about the ignored historiography. I would like to draw your attention the contribution of the Ahoms and the Kamrup king by drawing your attention to one particular incident. The Kamrupa king and the Ahoms resisted the Mughals and the Turko-Afghans more than 22 times. Can I request to present the slides, please? Not necessarily that I'm reading the slides, but just to give you a kind of introduction about the 22 times of attacks by the various Afghans, Mughals, and Turko-Afghans rulers in Kamrupa, and which was resisted by the Ahom kings later on. The ruler of Kamrup, who was instrumental in inflicting the devastating defeat to the mighty Mughal Muslims of Bakhtiar Khilji in 1206 and Ghiyasuddin Iwaz Khilji in 1227 was King Prithu, alias Biswafundar Dev. Bakhtiar Khilji wanted to establish the supremacy of Islamic rule not only in India, but also in Southeast Asia, such as Tibet, China, Myanmar, Laos, and beyond. He chose the path through India's northeast to reach his destination. The contemporary historical sources records unprecedented atrocities and crimes committed on Hindus and Buddhist population in the invaded territories by Bakhtiar and his army. Finally, it was Lasit Borphukan, one of the greatest military generals of India, who had nailed the coffins of the Mughals, and with his victory began the decline of Mughal Empire in India. Well, Lasit Borphukan and the Ahom kingdom represents the unrelented saga that began Assam's connection with that of Bharat and India. Various scriptures, Yogini Tantra, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Kalika Puran, and many others, cite the inalienable connection of Northeast Bharat with that of mainstream Bharat. Kumar Bhaskar Verma, Mahapurukh Shankardev, Madhavdev, the great unifier of the Assamese society, Sargodev Sukafa, Bir Silarai, and many others represent that ethos, the legacy and values that have been evolving over 1,000 years. Bir Lasit Borphukan is a major torrent in the journey. He also represents that saga, and he had told his army that if Mughals could invade Assam, it would not necessarily be a military subjugation alone, but the great socio-cultural heritage of the Ahoms would be lost forever. And not only Lasit Borphukan, the other kings, Sakrada Singha, also tried to connect with various ethnic groups and the neighboring kingdom. For example, Sakrada Singha wrote to the king of Coach Bihar about, and he drew inspiration and wrote to him about mutual dependence. Particularly, the Ahom kingdom took help of the ethnic communities, Motok Moran Aru, Lalung Sutia, Missing Barahi Boru, Kosari Bhutia, Mesrava Singfu, Dofala Habung, Ahum Keutkus, Koibotta Bamun, Pakial Hunwal Aruduonia, Karbi Misimi Hari or Harar Horonia, Kolita Kayastar, Guhai Mohanta, Pomua, Somuasa, Bonua Onanta, Tolua Nepali Aru Paharia Bhai, So Hosti Jatire Milonortai. In fact, our Ahoms took help of most of these ethnic communities. At the behest of the Mughals, there was an attempt to rupture this civilizational legacy and heritage which had been evolving since time immemorial. I'm coming to the conclusion by saying that this neglected historiography of Assam even continued in contemporary historical period. How? We are the Assamese people have been fighting another level of Horai Ghator Juddha in various manifestations in various colors. Demographic invasion, infiltration, terrorism across border with international terror network, the fear of being reduced to a minority in their own homeland are some of the manifestations that we are confronting today. Even during freedom struggle of India, Assam was confronting the colonial power and to a great extent the Congress at three levels. Number one, the Assamese people had to fight for the establishment of the language and culture. Secondly, the fight was against British colonialism. And thirdly, Assamese people also had to fight against the assertion of the Muslim League's attempt to make Assam a part of Pakistan. If I may draw your attention to the role being played by Muslim League, there were 5 areas, the areas of concern, how they gradually consolidated in the society of Assam. First, at the behest of the colonial power, there was an attempt to accommodate the immigrants in Assam, the then undivided Assam. Secondly, there was a clamor for land, and line system was enunciated to protect the indigenous and the Assamese people. Thirdly, when there was land was granted, then came the question of political rights and representation. Fourthly, with demographic invasion, demographic explosion, then the demand came to include Assam as a part of Pakistan. And India, Assam was fighting relentlessly against this kind of diabolical scheme of Muslim League, thanks to the initiative of Mahatma Gandhi and Gopinath Bordoloi, Navin Chandra Bordoloi, Vishnuram Medhi, and others who played an important role in making Assam a part of India, when Assam was included in Group C, and Group C being then undivided Bengal. Even in the post-colonial history, Assam's glorious tradition was neglected to a great extent. In fact, Northeast India in general, and Assam in particular, was branded as a problematic zone. In fact, some scholars have talked about the periphery strikes back. The core periphery dilemma was also enunciated. Armed violence and alienation of the Assamese people. Delhi was projected as Mahihai, that is the stepmotherly attitude of Delhi. These are some of the fallouts of that neglected historiography. However, the narrative has been changing now. With this kind of conglomeration, I believe this kind of intellectual deliberation would help us to bring the most important issues, burning issues, in the forefront of India's historical discourse. With these words, I welcome all of you, and we shall start our session now. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Hello. As I said in my presentation that we have today an eminent panelist, without losing much time, I'd like to request Dr. Bikram Sampath. He has written about 8 acclaimed books like Brave Hearts of Bharat. He has talked about 15 heroes of India, where Lasit is also part of that. And his 2 volumes, Savarkar, Echoes from a Forgotten Past, Savarkar, A Contested Legacy, are some of his important contributions. Sir, just one thing, I would like to request all our esteemed panelists to give their presentation in 10 minutes' time. Due to paucity of time, I would like to request our colleague to make their presentation in 10 minutes. It's over to you, sir.
Namaskar. A very good morning to all of you who have assembled here, and thank you so much for inviting me to this very important celebration and commemoration. It's personally very special for me to be in an event which is associated with Assam. Being a Diksha Prad disciple of the Kamakhya Peeth, it's a great honor. It almost feels like homecoming back for me to come back to a commemoration of the people, the culture, and the history of the state that I so love. Thank you. As the moderator rightly, started off, there is this very famous African proverb which says, "Until the lions find their storytellers, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunters." And I think the problem with what we are discussing in this panel is the ignored historiography. For the longest time, people have berated India and Indians that we do not have a sense of history writing or history keeping, but that is not true. Right from Kashmir, where Kalhana wrote the Rajatarangini, the extensive documentation of Kashmir's history, to down south to the Cholas, who ensured that every part of their history was documented, be it in inscriptions, in coins, on temple walls, palm leaf manuscripts, to the people of Assam, who have had an unbroken tradition of documentation right from the 4th century BCE till the time, of course, of the Ahom rulers, who in their meticulous documentation in what you all know as the Burunjis, have ensured that every detail of their kingdom, their life, their society, their culture has been preserved and kept. Now, despite that, why don't these names, if you ask a young child today in India, can you name two Ahom kings, who ruled Assam? It was a dynasty that ruled the place for 600 long years. I don't know how many children can actually name even one, leave alone two. So the problem is it's a willful ignoring of a historiography for multiple reasons. One is, of course, that infamous tyranny of distance, as they say. Anything that happens outside the periphery of Delhi doesn't catch the national imagination. Large parts of South India, from where I come from, or northeast of India, is a black hole for most people. Dynasties, heroes, warriors from these parts of the country seldom figure in the highly Delhi-centric, history that we have been fed to in all these years, especially after independence. The second one is, as the African proverb that I began with, that, stories of valor, stories of courage, stories of resistance, where we actually beat the invaders back, these are seldom told to us, because this element of self-loathing as a nation of losers, as Professor mentioned, is something that's been dinned into our heads. Now, particularly when it comes to Assam, there have been numerous historic records which testify to the military prowess of the Assamese people over the centuries. The very fact that no imperialist power was able to capture this region for significantly large portions of time itself testify to the valor, the military skills, the organization abilities of the Assamese and their armies. Now, right from the 7th century of Bhaskara Burman to the, till the 18th, 19th centuries, Assam armies were composed of splendid ships, elephants, horses, infantry, and archers. Now, abundance of elephants which were there in the forest, that became a very important part of the army. They also realized that, given the mighty Brahmaputra and the riverine, territory that it was there, naval supremacy is something that could be their strength, and they worked on it. Simultaneously, the availability of timber in the forests ensured that they could build ships and boats and their naval fleets as well. Now, many of the English, French, Dutch, Portuguese sailors as well, who were employed by the Mughal invaders in their numerous campaigns in Assam, they too have testified to how superior the naval prowess of the Ahoms was. Their infantry too had unique skills. They were skilled in guerrilla warfare, which made the lives of their opponents really miserable. They were expert archers who used poison-tipped arrows against their enemies. Also, there's a lot of mention about the manufacture of gunpowder itself. Some scholars and historians even believe that gunpowder was perhaps invented in this part of the world. Of course, later it went away to Pegu and China and so on, and China gets the entire credit of inventing gunpowder. Now, there was a table that was mentioned about the different invasions and how they were repelled by the people of Assam. I'll just mention two of them to highlight how important this resistance was. Almost 600 years, 400 years before Lachit Borphukan comes on scene. When Bakhtiyar Khilji invaded Kamrupa after his Tibet campaign in 1206, he came there with a huge army of about 12,000 horsemen. By then, he had destroyed the magnificent universities of Nalanda and Vikramshila, and he came there quite triumphantly. But little did he know what was to face him in Kamrupa. The ruler there had ensured that the scorched earth policy that was followed, the entire route of the invader, all the vegetation, all the water bodies were all extinguished, so much so that the invading tribes of Bakhtiyar Khilji had to kill their own horses and eat them so that they could survive. And Bakhtiyar Khilji himself runs away and takes shelter in a temple, a deserted temple there, and before he realizes, he sees that the Assamese are building a huge stockade around the entire temple. And he's so petrified that he makes a hasty retreat. And unlike a lot of other groups in India, which says a retreating enemy should not be attacked, the Assamese had no such qualms. They ensured they pursued hotly the invader, and most of them were killed. With barely about 100, 200 people out of 12,000 that he had come with, Bakhtiyar Khilji managed to flee, saving his life and moving away to Bengal. And the man who actually effected this whole thing was the ruler, King Prithu. And it's really, we all in our school textbooks and growing up years, we've read about Bhaktiar Khilji. We know about the Nalanda, sacking. But King Prithu and the kind of resistance that he gave to the man who was seen as invincible, none of us have really heard about that, which is such a sad thing. The second example that I'd like to draw your kind attention to is that when Ikhtiyaruddin Yujbak Tughril Khan, the celebrated governor of Bengal of the Delhi Sultanate, again comes in 1257 CE to Assam to invade. He thinks he has a free pass in the territory because the king Sandhya, he has ran away and taken shelter in a hill. But then little does he and his group realize that from atop the hill, every strategy was used by the ruler to repel the invaders, including reservoirs were let loose, and there was huge gushes of water that literally swept away a shocked, invaders who did not realize this was the tactic that was to be used against them. And again, everyone from Tughril Khan to others were literally butchered by ruler Sandhya. And after that, the Delhi Sultanate did not plan to come back, to invade. So these are some of the stories which were there even before the establishment of the Ahom dynasty in 1228 CE, which, as you know, united this entire region, the ethnicity, the different groups, and gave them a cogent sense of patriotism. They used every resource they had at their command, be it their military strength, their economic power, their strategic strength, whatever it is, even religion, superstitions, all of that, to make a very cogent and a very combative defense against everyone. And the first brush of the Mughals against the Kamarupa was in 1615 in Kajali, which was met with a great disaster. And after an initial loss, the Ahams quickly regrouped and they managed to send the Mughals back. Now, the Ahom kingdom itself, as you know, was divided into eastern and western Assam. While the eastern part of Assam was largely, kept independent, western Assam kept moving hands between the Ahoms, the Koks, the Mughals, and so on. Now, the biggest trouble that they faced was in 1636, when you had the invasion of the Mughals again. And this time, they managed to occupy a significant part of western Assam, and the Treaty of Asurar Ali, which was signed in 1639 between the Ahom general Momai Tamuli Barbarwa and the Mughal commander Allah Yar Khan, the whole of western Assam, starting from Guwahati, passed on to the Mughal hands. But even then, it was not for a long period of time. It was just momentary passing of territory away from their hands, and taking advantage of the political confusion in Delhi after the war of succession with Shah Jahan and all his sons fighting for the throne. The Ahom ruler, Jayadhwaj Singha, managed to expel the Mughals from Guwahati and chase them beyond the Manaha river. It's only much later that when Aurangzeb managed to consolidate his power, that all his attention was now focused on the eastern frontier, and he decided to win back all that the Mughal supremacy had lost earlier. And that is when in 1662 he sent Mir Jumla to both invade Kuch Bihar as well as the Ahom territory. But by then, there was so much of disunity, factional feuds in the Ahomi society that, they fell an easy prey to Mir Jumla, and vast parts of their territory passed on to the Mughal hands. It was quite late that they realized, when they saw the enemy so close to their gates, that what their disunity had caused them. But it was too late by then. And so, in fact, Jayadhwaj Singha himself had to run away from the capital of Gargaon to the Namrup hills, which got him the opprobrium of Bhangania Raja, or the absconder king, which stayed on with in his life all through. And it was a humiliating defeat for the Ahomis, and they had to, give away several elephants and war indemnity, and even the princess was given away in marriage to the Mughal emperor's son. But what happens after this? I think that needs to be a case study for everybody who is interested in strategy. It should be taught in every school, in every B school, as to how the underdogs actually regrouped, united, and in the face of adversities, how they managed to recover everything that they had lost. And that is where the greatness of Lachit Barphukan comes, and I'm sure the other panelists would talk a little more about that. I just thought of giving a formal setting to what the Assamese resistance has always been to the invaders. I'd like to end with what, immediately after the Battle of Saraighat in 1671, Aurangzeb's Alamgir Nama states this, and I'd like to quote that: "The Rajas of Assam have never bowed their heads of submission and obedience, nor have they paid tributes or revenue to the most powerful monarch. But they have curbed the ambition and checked the conquests of the most victorious princes of Hindustan. The solution of a war against them has baffled the penetration of heroes who have hitherto been styled as conquerors of the world." Unquote. This is the invader Aurangzeb. His Alamgir Nama actually states in glowing terms as to how the Rajas of Assam and their general Lachit Barphukan ensured that they were given a very bad defeat. So I'm very glad that we are now, the Lions are having their storytellers tell their story. This is just the beginning. And I think a lot of India, a lot of Delhi needs to hear about the Northeast, needs to hear about, Assam and its brave heroes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Bikram Sampath. He has described about how historiography neglected Northeast India and Delhi-centric history neglected the regional perspective, particularly from Assam. Well, sir, I would like to ask you one question, if you can answer it later on, not now. Particularly the dichotomy between the objective history and subjective history, like, the rightist perspective and the leftist perspective, not now, later on. So thank you so much, sir, for your presentation. Ami etia Dr. Sangita Gogoi Baido, tekhet Mongoldoi Collegeor. Dr. Sangita Gogoi is an ethnographer, and she is a specialist on Southeast Asia. So, ma'am, it's 10 minutes presentation. Thank you.
Respected moderator, Professor Nanikupal Mahanta, my co-panelist, and all the distinguished guests and students present here today. I'm extending my heartiest good wishes to you all on this auspicious occasion of 400th birth anniversary of our great hero, Lachit Borphukan, the great general of Assam. The history of medieval Assam is intricately linked to the rise and fall of Ahom kingdom in the Brahmaputra Valley from 1228 CE to 1826. It is the period when this land and its people had experienced a series of events that were and still are unique in their nature. It is the Buronji or chronicles written in traditional Ahom language that are considered as the storehouse of the medieval Assam history. While marching towards Brahmaputra Valley in the early 13th century, Saulung Sukafa, the founder Ahom king, ordered his royal priest, Deodhai, Mohan, and Bailung, to write down all the records of the people accompanied him, whoever died, lost on the way, and the one who have joined. Ji herai, ji dhukai, ji log hoy, hokolubur likhi rakhibo. From this royal dictum begins the tradition of recording history in Assam. In Sukafa Buronji, it is written like that: Kau rai, kau dai, kau pai, kau pok, tam, cham, chau tang, long. Since this day starts the rich tradition of history writing in Assam under the Ahom king. So here I am going to speak not the common things what we have discussed from yesterday. I'm going to stick to some points which are not much discussed in our written history. So, in medieval Assam. First of all, it is the ancestry of Lachit Borphukan. There is always controversy regarding the ancestry of Lachit Borphukan. Phukan Lung Lachit or Lachit Borphukan was a descendant of Fima, who accompanied Saulung Sukafa, the founder Ahom king. The first generation descendants of Fima were known as Luk Fima, and then their clan was called as Lan Fima. Here the Ahom word Luk means child, and Lan means grandchildren. As the proud descendants of Tai, as we know, the Ahoms are one of the Thai groups who migrated in the early 13th century from the periphery of China and Myanmar from the valley of Mung Mao, the valley of Mao River. They're descendants of Thai. The meaning of Thai is free or free man. The Ahoms always therefore consider freedom of their state as the foremost condition of their diplomatic system. Freedom was too dear a term for the Ahom, for which they can go to any limit. That's what we have seen in the time of the signing of the humiliating treaty during the time of Jayadhaj Singha, Hiladhari Ghator Sandhi. By that time, they had to go to that extent that they have to give his only daughter to the Mughal harem. In the light of all available documents, historical and otherwise, the Battle of Saraighat can be regarded as the continuance of the repeated foreign invasions from the west, that is Bengal, that started in the early decade of the 13th century to the region of present state of Assam. Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khilji's route to Kamrupa has been well documented in the famous Kanai Borohibua rock inscription in North Guwahati dated 13th Chaitra, 1127 Sak. The Genesis, so we can say that the Genesis of Ahom Mughal wars in the 17th century can be attributed to first, the division of Koch kingdom after the death of Silarai, Koch Bihar and Koch Haju. Then the insatiable quest of the Mughals for the territorial expansion and commercial mastery in Kamrup and Southeast Asia by acquiring the direct route from China and Tibet that passed through Kamrup. And finally, the grim determination and untiring industry of the Ahom to check the Mughal advance in the Brahmaputra Valley. So during the time of Sakradha Singha, due to different course of events that led to the violation of terms of the Treaty of Giladhari Ghat by both the signatory, which resulted in the resumption of the war in 1667. But we do not put proper light on the immediate cause of Battle of Saraighat. Saraighator Juddhar Prokit Shekhor Siddhanto ki asil. Ki ene kotha hoisil jar karone Sorgodeo Sakradhaj Singhoi Bhat Nukhwar Siddhanto loisil. Here আছিল the immediate cause. It is not actually discussed, but it was the unprecedented and undignified demand for Assamese girls by Mughal Fojadar Firoz Khan through Bholanath Kanongu and through Assamese ambassadors Madhav Choram Kotoki and Purananda Kotoki that supplied the ultimate spark to ignite the fury of Sakradha Singha and exceed every limit of his patience. And it is from Assam Buranji manuscript number 41. This audacious official demand was a grave insult to the royal dignity and honor of the state and also to the women folk, which is very much respected in medieval Assamese society. Highly enraged by the arrogance of the Mughal Fojadars, Sakradha Singha was bent on to liberate his kingdom from the Mughal at the earliest. Both Jayadhaj Singha and Sakradha Singha refused to remain as Mughal vassals and accept their tributary status. Sakradha Singha, a highly spirited and intensely patriotic monarch, declined to wear the Mughal imperial khilat robe, a symbol of Mughal tributary status. The striking illustration of this exceptional spirit of freedom can be found in his words, "Death is preferable to a life of subordination of foreigners. I will not surrender my independence for a suit of swain garments." After consulting his generals, he then decided and ordered for an immediate offensive move against the Mughal. So this is the time and demand of the time. And we see Lasit, yes, but the For a good furnace, we need 3 tripod, and that tripod, এটা উদ্ধানৰ কাৰণে 3টা খুঁটিৰ প্ৰয়োজন হয়, আৰু সেই 3টা খুঁটি, the 3 tripod, one was the Socrates Singha, then the Primar or Prime Minister Aton Buragohai, and the third was, of course, our commander and Borfukon Lachit. So, then the war preparation was made, and in that case, every effort was made to win the friendship and cooperation of the rulers of neighboring countries, hills, chiefs, and tributary kingdoms of the Ahom. What has not done by Jayadhar Singha? It is a policy of Ahoms, they're taking everyone with Sat, everyone together, what we now goes on, Sabka Sat. Significantly, when most of the parts of contemporary India was under Mughal domination, the Ahom kingdom successfully defended itself against the Mughals. Another fact in connection of Battle of Saraighat is that Ram Singha, the Rajput commander of the Mughals, sent messages to Lasit Borfukon through Doiboki Nandan. If Borfukon desired the protection of cow and Brahmanas, let him leave Guwahati. This proves that under the Ahom administration, cow and Brahmanas were well protected, which was not the same in other parts, maybe in India. In Ramhinga's, ironically also, we can see in Ramhinga's army, there were 15,000 coach archers, as well as captains from Coast Bihar, Raja Joynarayan, grandson of Pariksit, Kabhisekhar Borua, Sarbeswar Borua, Manmoth Borua, Ghanashyam Boxi. They were, Coast Bihar is a part, it is a Kamrup, but ironically by 1609, Coast Bihar became a part of Mughal India. King Jayadhar Singha, and now I'm saying, what was the situation, what was the socio-cultural and religious condition of Assam by that time? You see, Jayadhar Singha established 3 satras, Auniati, Dokhinpat, and Garmur. And he formally accepted Hindu religion. Socrates Singha was also a disciple of Dokhinpat Satra and highly patronized Satra institution. The Assamese commanders met at Guwahati and offered their prayer to the temple Kamaikha, O Mother, eat up the foreigners and protect all our people. Ahom manuscript, Buronji number 12. Astrologer also played a very important part in their situation. So another thing I want to come across, that the Ahoms, they had their own religion, they were ancestor worshippers, but for their intention was only one, that is state formation. For state formation, they did not, irrespective of religion, caste, they were adamant. For state formation, their main focus was that state formation. And another thing is that in 1 minute, that we usually get information that in 10,000 Assamese soldiers were massacred in Alaboy. Actually, the thing is that the instruction and the motto of Ahom is that do until die, Namoraleke Jujiba. That's why they died fighting. Not they পিঠি দেখুৱাই পেলাই যাব নোৱাৰে, নহ'লে খৰগেদুৱে কাটিব, গতিকে তেওঁলোকে they were good fighters. So as there is no time, so I'm winding up, and lots of battles have been fought, but finally they won the Battle of Saraighat for forever and freed Assam from foreign domination, greatly enhancing its power and prestige in the world. It is a rare combination of the dogged determination of Ahom King Socrates Singha and patriotism of his commander Lasit Borfukon that decided the ultimate victory of Assamese. Thank you. Still, I thank all, and also the endeavor taken by the government, for which I think Lasit Borfukon's blessings till many years have passed, but this hero of Assam is getting the actual recognition this time under the endeavor of this present government. And also I thank everyone, because we are ancestor worshippers. Ancestors always bless, always is there to look after, and I think this is the blessing of ancestor for the success of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Baido. Thank you. Baido has talked about 2-3 important areas, particularly the Burunzi tradition, how it was maintained, and meaning of Thai, the importance of freedom and autonomy to the Ahom rulers. Baido, if I may ask you later on, not now, the assimilation process of the Ahom rulers, particularly coming from Southeast Asia, how they mingle with the greater Assamese society and contribution for the composition of greater Assamese society. I'd like to know your views later on if time permits. Now I have the honor to request Dr. Chandra Prakash Dwivedi, although he is a qualified medical profession and who gave up his medical profession because of his interest in Indian history. And his famous, some of his contributions, Sanakya serial, Upanishad Ganga and others. May I request you to give your 10 minutes presentation.
नमस्ते भारत। मुझे आज बड़ी प्रसन्नता है कि मैं उस भारत से बात कर रहा हूं जिसे अहोम या असम भी कहते हैं। विक्रम के बात करने के बाद बहुत कुछ कहने को रह नहीं जाता है, और कभी-कभी मेरे मन में एक प्रश्न उठता है कि मध्यकालीन भारत का इतिहास, यानी जहां से भारत में इस्लामिक आक्रांता आए, उसके बाद भारत का इतिहास क्या है। कई बार मुझे ऐसा विक्रम लगता है कि भारत का मध्यकालीन इतिहास दुर्जनों की दुर्जनता का इतिहास है, उनकी दुष्टता का इतिहास है। और उसका एक कारण मैं ये सोचता हूं कि 1622 में लाचित बरफुकन का जन्म होता है। 1630 में छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज का जन्म होता है, 7 साल बाद। इसके कुछ समय पहले भारत के गौरव महाराणा प्रताप का जन्म होता है। महाराणा प्रताप और अकबर में सिर्फ 2 साल का अंतर था। और एक मजेदार बात जो उत्तर भारत में हो रही है, 1623 में गोस्वामी तुलसीदास की मृत्यु हो जाती है। गोस्वामी जी के जाने के पहले लाचित बरफुकन जन्म ले लेते हैं, 7 वर्ष बाद शिवाजी जन्म लेते हैं। आज हम बरफुकन को आसाम का शिवाजी भी कहते हैं। मुझे लगता है कि अब हम लोगों को यह भी कहना चाहिए कि 2-2 शिवाजी उस समय लड़ रहे थे मुगलों से। अब मैं एक बात, चूंकि हमने अपनी विरासत को क्यों भुला दिया, इसका प्रश्न है। और कई बार मुझे लगता है कि कहीं हम आत्मविस्मृत देश तो नहीं हो गए हैं, हमें अपने अतीत का कोई गौरव नहीं रहा, और इसके लिए किसको दोषी ठहराए। तो मुझे याद है, राजेश अगर मैं गलत कह रहा हूं तो मुझे ठीक करना, कि जयध्वज के पराजय के बाद उसकी जो समीक्षा हुई तो उसमें पता चला कि अहोम साम्राज्य के लोगों ने ही मन से युद्ध नहीं किया। या तो ये जयध्वज या चक्रध्वज के बीच की बात है। उन्होंने मन से युद्ध नहीं किया, इसलिए अहोम साम्राज्य की पराजय हुई। स्वर्गदेव ने इस पर विचार किया और वो इस निर्णय पर जाना चाहते थे कि मैं उन सभी को दंड देना चाहता हूं जिन्होंने अपने मन से अपनी मातृभूमि के लिए युद्ध नहीं किया, उसकी एक सूची बनाई जाए। तो एक बूढ़े मंत्री ने उनसे कहा कि सर पर एक दो बाल सफेद हो गए हों तो उसको निकाला जा सकता है, लेकिन सर के सारे बाल सफेद हो गए हैं तब तो उसको उखाड़ना ही पड़ेगा। तो कभी कभी मुझे लगता है कि हम इस बात पर विचार करें कि ये सफेद बाल कहीं हम तो नहीं थे। आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव प्रारंभ हो गया, हम अमृत काल में पहुंच गए हैं। देश की आजादी के 75 वर्ष हो गए हैं। अब हम किसको दोष देंगे? जैसा कि विक्रम ने कहा कि भारत का इतिहास यानी दिल्ली, और दिल्ली ही नहीं मुगलों का इतिहास, उसके पहले और उसके बाद में कोई इतिहास नहीं रहा। और जब मैं दृश्य श्राव्य माध्यमों की बात करता हूं, जब मैं सिनेमा और टेलीविजन की बात करता हूं, तो हमने असम को नहीं देखा, हमने कश्मीर को नहीं देखा, हमने दक्षिण भारत को नहीं देखा। और जब जब ऐतिहासिक चित्रों की बात आती है, ऐतिहासिक फिल्मों की बात आती है, जो निवेशक हैं, जो फिल्में बनाते हैं, उनको ऐसा लगता है कि भारत के इतिहास में भारत की प्रजा की रुचि नहीं है। मुझे लगता है ये गलत साबित करने की जिम्मेदारी हम लोगों की है। कितनी बड़ी कहानियां, सिर्फ लाचित बरफुकन की नहीं, इससे भी बड़ी बड़ी कहानियां आसाम की और भारत की पूरी भूमि में। एक पान पकड़ने वाला लड़का, तांबुली से शुरू होता है उनका जीवन, तांबुल लेकर राज्य मंत्री के साथ चलना, उनके कागजात लेकर चलना, उसके बाद घोड़ा बरुआ, घोड़े की देखरेख करना, संभालना, उसके बाद दोला भारी, पालकी के साथ चलना, और पालकी के बाद से फूकन, और फूकन से बरफूकन। मैं आसाम के लोगों को क्या बताऊंगा कि 6000 पाइक, 6000 सैनिक जिसके नेतृत्व में रहते थे, उसे फूकन कहते थे। ऐसी कहानी कि पान उठाने वाला, पानदान उठाने वाले से लेकर अहोम साम्राज्य का नेतृत्व करना, मुगलों को पराजित करना। मुझे कई बार बहुत आश्चर्य होता है कि शिवाजी के जीवन में भी शाइस्ता खान थे और बरफुकन के जीवन में भी शाइस्ता खान है। किस तरह से पूरे भारत को ये हमारी कथाएं जोड़ती हैं। और मुझे ईश्वर ने अवसर दिया तो मैं इसको देखने की पूरी कोशिश करूंगा कि हम महाराष्ट्र और सिर्फ असम को ना देखें, बल्कि पूरी समग्रता में भारत को देखें कि उस समय भारत के मानचित्र पर भारत की अस्मिता के लिए, भारत के गौरव के लिए किस तरह से भारत के लोग लड़ रहे थे, जिसमें लाचित बरफुकन एक और दूसरी ओर छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज। तो साथियों, कहीं ना कहीं ये जिम्मेदारी हम लोगों को लेनी पड़ेगी, वो चाहे दृश्य माध्यम हो। प्रांजलदा को मैंने देखा, प्रांजलदा कल ही लाचित बड़फुकन पर नाटक कर कर आज सुबह यहां आए हैं। जिसके पास जो माध्यम है, जो लेखक है, अब हमें अपना इतिहास स्वयं कहना होगा। मुझे याद है, मुझे एक शब्द पर आपत्ति थी। जब डिस्कवरी ऑफ इंडिया बनी, और यह भारत सरकार का प्रायोजित कार्यक्रम था 1988-89, उसे हमारे पहले प्रधानमंत्री पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू के दृष्टिकोण से देखा गया था। और चूंकि चाणक्य मैंने कभी बनाया था, तो मैंने उनके चाणक्य का प्रकरण भी देखा, और उसमें पंडित जी सूत्रधार की भूमिका में चाणक्य, विष्णुगुप्त या कौटिल्य को कहते हैं ब्राह्मण फॉक्स। मुझे उस पुस्तक के अतिरिक्त दूसरी कोई ऐसी पुस्तक नहीं मिली जिसमें विष्णुगुप्त को ब्राह्मण फॉक्स कहा गया। उसके बाद जो भी मैंने पढ़ा है उस पर, उसे राष्ट्र निर्माता कहा गया है, राजनैतिक चिंतक कहा गया है। तो कहीं न कहीं मुझे ये लगता है, इस पर विचार करना चाहिए कि जाने अनजाने में हमने अपने महान चरित्रों को कहीं छोटा तो नहीं बनाया है हमारे अपने राजनीतिक स्वार्थ के कारण।
1 minute, please.
मेरे 10 मिनट पूरे हो गए हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, sir. So it's great honor to listen to you, sir.
आपने मुझे 1 मिनट बोला था। हाँ। अरे I'm so sorry. मुझे लगा 10 मिनट का। मैंने बोला 1 मिनट, ठीक है।
In any case, sir, we listen to you. Particularly, you have talked about Atma Brismriti Day, who we have forgotten our history, and we have many stories like Lasit, sir. So how to popularize Lasit, and you have also given us means to popularize Lasit and other such heroic figures. Thank you so much, sir. It's great honor to listen to you. Now, may I request Dr. Rajiv Professor Hendig from Guwahati University. Professor Hendig is a prominent scholar in history, and he's an expert on British forest policy. Dr. Rajiv Hendig, your 10 minutes presentation, please.
Namaskar. Honorable Chair, Professor Nanigopal Mohanto, esteemed panelists, eminent persons, dignitaries present on this very auspicious occasion of 400th birth anniversary of our hero, our symbol of courage and sacrifice, Lachit Borphukan, on whose memory I offer my homage and prayers today. I feel today as if it is another Battle of Saraighat, and we all are assembled here today. All the, I would say, who's who of Assam. We have our leaders, we have our ministers, we have leaders of higher education, we have several vice-chancellors, honorable vice-chancellors, we have the leaders of the media world, we have leaders of the entertainment world, we have leaders of various communities, we have our students, as if, you know, this convergence is by itself a great assertion. And I commend and congratulate the government of Assam for having made this convergence possible and for having me as one of the speakers of this panel. Ignored Historiography of Assam's Assertion, that's the title of the panel. And it's a very relevant topic, but it also makes me sad. It makes me sad as a historian because 75 years after independence, we are holding a panel discussion at Delhi on a topic like this, where we feel that even after 75 years of independence, our history has not been found, are not finding the due place of honor in the textbooks and even in the very well-written history books of the country. I'm not going into the details of what has already been said, but the title itself, historiography, is very simple to understand. Historiography is history of history writing. Itihake hol asolte historiography. And history is something that we study of the past, and everyone has got a history. Everyone. Amar yat thoka hokolu byakti, every individual, every community, every person has got history. It's true that that history may be oral, that may be also written, that can also be in a written form. So with that premise that history of history writing is historiography, and we all have a history. I don't think I should spend time in telling about the history of Assam. That has already been said. And history of Assam is unique, as has been portrayed by the eminent panelists yesterday and even today. Yesterday's panel was on the Ahum saga of hope, skills, and courage. The panelists talked about the Ahum state, which was an inclusive state. It was a state, it was a kingdom where there was celebration of differences, celebration of diversity. And that diversity could be all united and under one leader. They could all resist the might of the Mughal rulers. After the Cholas and the Pandyas, the Ahums are the longest ruling dynasty in India. But in the historiography of India, you won't find even in the footnote that being mentioned. That is why this assertion is here today. Lachit Borphukan was no less a general than Shivaji. It's not me that I am telling this, it has been told by and that has been acknowledged by all the panelists yesterday and today. Even in the freedom struggle, Pioli Phukan got martyred 30 years before 1857. It's a unique event, but there is no mention in the history books of India. We have Konoklota Borua, a minor by today's standard, he says a minor, got killed by British bullet for trying to hoist the tricolor, the Indian flag, on top of the official building. It's an unique event in the entire country. But still that doesn't find a place in the history books of India. There are many examples like that. We have the example of even Kukhol Kaur, the only one who got hanged in the Quit India movement. These are all unique, very unique happenings, but yet it doesn't find a place in the history books of India. So 75 years after, if we have a look at the NCERT textbooks, which are given as part of the social science, class 6, class 7, class 8, where we have the title given is Our Past, Our Past. But that our past, our past, that past doesn't include the history of Assam or the history of Northeast India. I think it's a very sad state of affairs. There is a chapter 9, Making of the Regional Cultures, where you have a list of classical dances. The only mention is of Manipuri. Khatriya dance is not mentioned there. You have mention of the peers. The textbook doesn't talk about Ajan Peer. There is talk of culture, Mas khoa jitu mane culture, fish culture. It stops on the borders of Bengal. It doesn't go beyond the chicken neck, as if, as Sampatji said, the distance sometimes becomes a burden. Then there are all the other textbooks. 9 and 10 is on contemporary world. 12, again there is of course mention of Shankardeva, but the way it is written is S-H-A-N-K-A-R, ami teneke nilikhu, ami S-A-N-K-A-R likhu. Just I'm mentioning this because that is our uniqueness. Our names are important. The way we pronounce name, the way we state the names are important. Our Sri Shankardev was to be, I suppose, written as Sankardev, DEVA. And again, there is a theme 9 which talks of kings and chronicles. And these kings and chronicles, it is utterly limited to the Mughal court, as if chronicles were not written anywhere. Buranjis were completely forgotten. I think this is very unfortunate. This is very unfortunate. But it's not that history is not being written. History is being written. We have historians. We have associations like the Northeast India History Association.
Professor Hendig, 1 minute, please.
Okay, that have actually published 41 volumes till now. There is Indian History Congress, which is going on, and where I just I would like to mention that for the first time, S.K. Bhuiyan wrote about Lachit Barphukan was in the Indian History Congress of 1935. 1935 sonate teo Lachit Barphukanor oporot ekhon he presented one paper, and the title of the paper was A Great Assamese Contemporary of Shivaji Maharaja and the Successful Antagonist of the Mughal General Raja Ram Singha of Amber. But still, no one took cognizance of that. 2 years after, he wrote another paper and presented in the same Indian History Congress, Swargodev Rudrasingha, the king of Assam, whom he, of course, commended for having made the plan to lead a confederacy to fight against the Mughals. That again got ignored. Later on, there were other writers also who made this. Now, why this has happened? Why this has happened? Within a country, the history of the country should include the history of all the peoples. So, within the country of India, Ek Bharat, we must have the history of Ek Bharat. The historiography must include the history of all. So, my submission is that those people who have been writing history, taking the nation in the making process, 75 years have passed, the nation is still in the making, and our history is still not being included. So, the believers in the dictum of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, I think should make it a point, and today this convergence, this assertion must be
Please
there,
conclude.
that the history of Northeast India, the history of Assam should be made a part of the history of the nation of which we all are a part. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Hendig, professor from Guwahati University. Professor Hendig gave us an account how the contribution of Assam has been perennially neglected by mainstream history. It's not essentially that we talk about hagiography. He has also talked about the tradition of Buranji writing, which has lost its significance in present times. If I may ask a question to Professor Hendig, what is the significance of 400 birth anniversary celebration in terms of historiography? If we have time, we can deliberate upon on this issue as well. Well, we are coming to the last speaker of today's session, Mr. Rajesh Kumar Singh. He is an actor, writer, director and producer of TV programs and a journalist. May I request you, Rajesh Kumar Singh ji, to give your presentation in 10 minutes, please.
नमस्कार। पहले तो मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा नानी गोपाल जी का, जिन्होंने जिस तरीके से बड़े ही प्रेरणादायी तरीके से एक पूरे विषय को उसके अलग अलग पहलुओं को जिस तरीके से उन्होंने यहाँ डिस्क्राइब किया, उल्लिखित किया। दूसरी बात मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि इतिहास की जब हम बात करते हैं, और इतिहास अगर हिस्टोरियोग्राफी में भुला दिया गया कि अहोम साम्राज्य ने कितनी मजबूती के साथ मुग़ल साम्राज्य जो हर जगह अपना आतंक का राज्य चला रहे थे, उनको किस तरह एक दीवार बन के रोक दिया। वो सारी चीज़ें, वो कथाएं जो हैं हम सब लोग जानते हैं और आप सब लोगों को उसके पहले भी बताया जा चुका है। मैं थोड़ा सा अलग कुछ बताना चाहूँगा, बोलना चाहूँगा। वो ये है कि इतिहास जो है वो उससे हम सीख लेते हैं। तो इस इतिहास से हमने क्या सीख लिया, ये सोचने की बात है। इसमें मैं रेफरेंस देना चाहूँगा, विक्रम संपत जी की किताब में ही है और जयपुर डायलॉग्स में विक्रम जी ने उस श्लोक को पढ़ा भी था। धर्मार्थ काम मोक्षणम उपदेश समन्वित पूर्वव्रतम कथायुक्तम इतिहासम प्रयक्षति। तो इतिहास जो है उससे प्रेरणा लेके, उससे उपदेश लेके, ज्ञान लेके हमें अपने धर्म अर्थ काम मोक्ष का जो अपना जीवन है उसको कैसे संचालित करना है, उसके लिए इतिहास रचा जाता है। और रसीला होता है, अच्छा लगता है, कथाएं सुनने में बहुत बढ़िया लगती हैं। और हमारे यहाँ तो महान कथाकार आचार्य चाणक्य बैठे हुए हैं, तो हम सब जानते हैं कि कथाओं का कितना महत्व है। लेकिन उससे क्या सीखा हमने, और जब मैंने ये पूरा इतिहास पढ़ा, और मैं बता रहा हूँ आपसे बिल्कुल पहली बार, मेरे मित्र हैं राघवेंद्र सिंह जी, उनके कारण जो है मैंने इसके बारे में जाना। लाशित बरफुकन का नाम तो मैंने बहुत सुना था, लेकिन सरायघाट की लड़ाई के बारे में, अहोम इतिहास के बारे में मेरी जानकारी शून्य थी। मैं उत्तर प्रदेश का रहने वाला हूँ, गंगा के किनारे का। एक बार तिनसुकिया गया था, वहाँ कुछ दूरी पर ब्रह्मपुत्र नदी देखने गया था। तो ब्रह्मपुत्र नदी तो मुझे लगा कि एक महारानी की तरह है, जबकि हमारी गंगा माता जो है, गंगा मैया जो है, एक माँ की तरह थी, लेकिन महारानी की तरह। और वो देखे मैंने बड़ा लंबा पाट और वो रेत के टीले ढहते हुए उसके अंदर वो भीषण आवाज। तो हमने देखा कि किस प्रकार का वातावरण वहाँ था, और वहाँ की कहानी मैंने पहली बार वहाँ के लोगों की कहानी को ठीक तरीके से समझा एक प्रकल्प से जुड़ने के बाद। तो इसमें ये मैंने जाना कि सबसे महत्वपूर्ण ये था कि अहोम लोग लड़ किस बात के लिए रहे थे, ये युद्ध किस लिए था। क्या ये टेरिटरी का युद्ध था? टेरिटरी तो उसमें तो मामूली तामूली ने जो असुरार अली की संधि की थी उसके अंदर छोड़ दी थी टेरिटरी कि आइए आप इस क्षेत्र तक, आप गुवाहाटी तक आकर रह सकते हैं। मुगलों से बार बार इस तरह की बातें होती रही, लेकिन अपने हृदय प्रदेश में क्यों नहीं घुसने देना चाहते थे? इसलिए नहीं घुसने देना चाहते थे क्योंकि मुगल साम्राज्य एक विस्तारवादी साम्राज्य था। मुगल साम्राज्य जो हमारी भारत की विशेषता है, वो विविधता में एकता नहीं देखता था, वो विविधता में एकता के मंत्र पर ही प्रहार करता था। इस कारण वो ये लड़ाई होती थी, हर जगह ये लड़ाई हुई, जहां गुर्जर थे, जाट थे, मराठा थे, हर क्षेत्र में, हर जगह, हर इलाकों में ये लड़ाइयां इसीलिए चलती थी क्योंकि हमारी जो विशेषता थी, इस भारत भूमि की जो विशेषता थी, और जो असम की भी विशेषता है, जो असम के आसपास के जितने पूर्वोत्तर के राज्य हैं उनको अपने साथ लेकर चला था अहोम साम्राज्य। इसीलिए अहोम साम्राज्य के राजा जो हैं पॉपुलर थे, वो एक दूसरे के बीच के झगड़े को वो सुलझाते थे। तो इस तरह का उनका अपना अप्रोच होता था, वो विविधता में एकता समझते थे, वो दूसरे की आस्था के ऊपर प्रहार नहीं करते थे। लेकिन यहाँ हमारी आस्था के ऊपर प्रहार करने वाले आतताई दरिंदे जब आए, तब जाके उनसे लड़ने के लिए ये सारा युद्ध हुआ, जिसके अंदर हमने देखा, अहोम साम्राज्य ने देखा किस तरह अपमानित किया गया। गिलझारी घाट की संधि कितनी अपमानास्पद थी, और मैंने जब पढ़ा इतिहास देखा किस तरह से अहोम साम्राज्य और अहोम लोग किस तरह से खड़े हो गए कि अपमान कुछ दिन तक सहन कर लेंगे, लेकिन हम जवाब देंगे, उत्तर देंगे। और क्या उत्तर दिया, क्या उत्तर दिया। मैं जब पढ़ता हूं उस पूरे किस्से को तो मेरा खून खौल जाता है। तो मैं समझ सकता हूं कि अहोम साम्राज्य में रहने वाले हर नागरिक का खून खौला होगा, और खौला था। जब राजा जयध्वज सिंह जो है जब जाते थे तो उनको एक महिला दुकानदार कहती थी कि तुम भगिनिया राजा हो, तुमने क्या किया है। सामान्य जन था वो दुखी था कि देखो हमारे स्मारक, हमारी समाधियां, हमारे पूर्वजों की समाधियों को इन्होंने बर्बाद किया है। 6 साल की लड़की को, एक राजकुमारी को इन्होंने अपने मुगल हरम में रख लिया। ये सब कुछ देखा था। तो ये था मुगल साम्राज्य, और उसका प्रतिरोध, विरोध लगातार बार बार भारत के हर कोने में हो रहा था। वो विरोध मराठा कर रहे थे, वो विरोध गुर्जर कर रहे थे, जाट कर रहे थे, राजपूत कर रहे थे, सब कर रहे थे। एक हमारे ही समाज का एक हिस्सा, समस्या हमारी हमेशा ये रही है कि हम बट जाते हैं, कभी जाति में बट जाते हैं, कभी किन्हीं और कारणों से बट जाते हैं, पैरोकियल एलिमेंट्स की वजह से बच जाते हैं। तो ये जो बटना हमारा हुआ उसके कारण जो है वो गिलाधारी घाट की संधि का अपमान हमको सहना पड़ा। तो वो सीख सबसे बड़ी है जो हमें लेनी है, और जिसकी बात जो है मतलब नानी गोपाल जी कह रहे थे, जब उन्होंने हम लोगों को बताया, जो उनके पूरे वक्तव्य में वो बात बहुत बहुत स्पष्ट हो जाती है कि हमारी जो ये टूटन है, हम लोग जो बट जाते हैं उसके कारण हम लोग मारे जाते हैं, काटे जाते हैं, और वो परिस्थितियां आज भी बनी हुई हैं। आज उसका भी जिक्र उन्होंने किया। इस समय जो असम की उस समय परिस्थिति थी, इस समय पूरे देश की परिस्थिति है। असम के लोगों को अपनी पीठ इस बात के लिए भी थपथपानी चाहिए कि पूरे पूर्वोत्तर को उन्होंने बचाया हुआ है अभी तक। वो सह रहे हैं वो वार जो अभी भी हो रहे हैं, हमारे देश के ऊपर वार निरंतर होते रहे हैं। और ये याद रखिए आप सारे लोग, जो युद्ध उस समय आप लोगों ने लड़ा था, वो युद्ध जो है वो निरंतर चलने वाला युद्ध है। शांति की प्रक्रिया क्षणभंगुर है, युद्ध लगातार होते हैं। और अहोम लोग, असमी लोग इस बात को जानते हैं कि युद्ध लगातार होते रहते हैं। युद्ध से और आपको योद्धा लगातार बने रहना है, पूरे समाज को योद्धा लगातार बने रहना है, और ये बहुत आवश्यक है। और वो सबसे बड़ी सीख है जो सराय घाट की लड़ाई की, वो सबसे बड़ी सीख है। उस सराय घाट की लड़ाई में केवल योद्धा नहीं लड़े थे, उस सराय घाट की लड़ाई में खेतिहर लड़े थे, व्यापारी लड़े थे, सब के सब लड़े थे, पूरा का पूरा समाज लड़ा था। एक छोटा समाज जिसकी संख्या बहुत बड़ी नहीं, उसके अंदर सब कुछ झोंका था उसके अंदर। जब उसने सस्टेन किया था उस 1-2 साल लंबी लड़ाई को, और ताकते रह गए थे मुंह, बड़े बड़े योद्धा मुंह ताकते रह गए थे, राम सिंह जैसे योद्धा मुंह ताकते रह गए थे, देखो ये क्या हो गया। ये लोग तो समझ रहे थे हमारे पास तो सब कुछ है, पूरे देश से इकट्ठा कर लेंगे भाड़े के टट्टुओं को, देश का विदेश से इकट्ठा कर लेंगे भाड़े के टट्टुओं को और जीत लेंगे। नहीं जीत पाए, रोक दिया उनको, एक लोहे की पहाड़ दीवार बन के रोका, और कितनी चालाकी से रोका। तो वो भी ज्ञान लेने की बात है कि युद्ध में युधिष्ठिर नहीं बनते, कृष्ण बन के लड़ाई लड़ी जाती है। और ये लड़ाई लड़ी थी लाशित बारफूकन ने, कृष्ण की तरह लड़े थे। कहे तुम बेईमान हो, हम तुमसे बड़े बेईमान हो, तुम दिन में लड़ोगे, हम रात में लड़ेंगे। और तुम हमसे कहते हो कि दिन में कायर लड़ते हैं। अरे दिन में कायर लड़ते हैं, नहीं लड़ते हैं कि रात को शेर निकल के शिकार करता है, हम वो शेर हैं। तो ऐसे लड़ाई लड़ी जाती है। तो आज भी इस देश के शत्रुओं को अगर हराना है तो इसी मनोदशा के साथ हमें तैयार रहना पड़ेगा, अपनी मानसिकता बना के रखनी पड़ेगी। और शत्रु हर जगह है, और इलीट हमारा जो संभ्रांत अभिजात्य वर्ग है वो सबसे बड़ा शत्रु होता है हमारा। आज भी हमारा अभिजात वर्ग सबसे बड़ा शत्रु है। हमारी न्यायपालिका हमारा शत्रु बन के खड़ी हो गई है, हमारी कार्यपालिका में भी शत्रु बैठे हुए हैं, हर जगह शत्रु बैठे हुए हैं जो हमें तोड़ने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं हर दृष्टि से। तो ये ध्यान रखने की बात है। और मैं बहुत ज्यादा आप समय नहीं लूंगा, धन्यवाद, इतना ही कहना था। नमस्ते।
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your very emotive and evocative speech. Very passionate speech, sir. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have listened to 5 prolific presentations by Dr. Bikram Sampat, Dr. Hongita Gogoi Baido, Professor Rajiv Handik, Dr. Chandra Prakash Trivedi Dangoria, and Rajesh Kumar Singh. Now it's Q&A session. I will make it open for our distinguished guests to ask their question. আজি আমাৰ মাজত অসমৰ বিভিন্ন প্ৰান্তৰ পৰা অহা বহু বিদগ্ধ পণ্ডিতকে আৰম্ভ কৰি ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰী সুধীবৃন্দ ইয়াত উপস্থিত আছে। আপোনালোকে প্ৰশ্ন সুধিব পাৰে। We have about 25 minutes at our disposal. Already I have asked a few questions to our panelists. Well, before I make it open, can I request our organizer to give a mic, or before I leave it open for our audience to ask questions, I have asked a few questions to our distinguished guests. If you can answer them, and only one request to the audience, there should be one specific question and no explanation. Number 1, your name and institution that you represent, to whom the question is addressed, and question to Ohomia to Hodibo Pare, we can translate it to Hindi or English. Thank you. আমি দুবা তিনিটা মান প্ৰশ্ন একেলগে লম। Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Since this is a panel on ignored historiography, I would like to just bring out one point, which is not been properly represented. We have been discussing since yesterday that Mughal has...
I know you, please
Oh,
introduce
sorry,
yourself.
sorry. My name is Uttam Mathari. I teach history in Guwahati University. And this is not a question addressed to anyone. This is just a comment and observation. As I said, since yesterday, we have been discussing about the way Mughal tried to enter Assam from the western border. One fact remained unmentioned here, that Mughal also tried to enter Assam from southern side. And that effort was repulsed by a Dimasa king named Kirti Chandra Narayan, who after defeating the Mughal adopted the title of Shatrughaman. And another thing is, चंद्र प्रकाश द्विवेदी जी, आपने कहा था कि मुगल दो शिवाजी से लड़ रहे थे। ये जो पैनल है आज का इग्नोर्ड हिस्टोरियोग्राफी, इसका जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगा जब हम बोलना शुरू करेंगे कि मुगल ने दो लाशिद से लड़ाई की थी। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much. Yeah, we can take a few questions here, please. It should be specific.
Hi, namaskar,
Yeah.
sir.
Hi, apni.
মোৰ নাম শ্ৰী মানস সন্দেকা, ভাৰতীয় জনতা পাৰ্টি অসম। মোৰ প্ৰশ্নটো হ'ল, যেতিয়া উজনি অসমত লাচিত বৰফুকনে যুদ্ধ কৰি আছিলে, তেতিয়া নামনি অসমৰ এইফালে যেতিয়া কামৰূপ, নলবাৰী, বৰপেটা এই ছাইডটোত আপোনাৰ লাচিত বৰফুকনক কোন কোন ৰজা বা প্ৰজাই সহায় কৰিছিলে, মই সেই বিষয়ে জানিব পাৰোঁ।
Thank you.
লাচিত
কোন কোন
বৰফুকনে
ৰজা
কোন
সহায়
কোন-
কৰিছিল?
হয়, ধন্যবাদ।
Got your point. Baido, apni can answer. Yes, Dada.
Myself, Dr. Dayanand. My question is, rightly Rajiv Hendrik told it, that Mongol Pandey has been declared the first martyr of Indian independence war. Before that, Jiuram Dolia Boro and Pioli Phukon was hanged after trial in Cherrapunji. Seeing the public gathering, the Britishers hanged them on the bank of the Shivsagar pond. That has not been written in anything, and it has not been declared in the parliament also that these two heroes should get their position in the Indian history, number one. Number two, Sukapa didn't come from China at that time. It was a sovereign country of Sukapa. There are more than 12 small Thai states in China at that time. When Sukapa came from Mongmao, it was a sovereign country. And this was subjugated by Kublai Khan in 1253. It was 7th January, Monday.
Okay, sir.
And
Be specific.
ironically, the same 1253, Sukapa formed his kingdom here.
Thank you.
This can be referred to.
Thank you for your questions. We have now 3 questions. If I may ask our panelists to give answer. অসমীয়া প্ৰশ্নটো বোধ হয় বাইদেউ বা ৰাজীৱ সন্দিকৈ ডাঙৰীয়া। It's open to নামনি অসমৰ কোন কোন ৰজাই লাচিত বৰফুকনৰ এক্সপেডিশ্যনটোত সহায় কৰিছিলে? Could you understand the question?
অসম নামনি অসমখন সেইখিনি সময়ত নামনি উজনি বুলি কথা এটা নাছিলে নেকি, কাৰণ তেওঁলোকে একেলগে অসম হৈ পেলাই যুঁজিছিলে। কাৰণ সেই অসমীয়া জাতীয়তাবোধ, অসমীয়া জাতীয় চেতনা আৰু অসমীয়া জাতি গঠনৰ প্ৰক্ৰিয়াটো প্ৰতাপ সিংহ সময়ৰ পৰাই হৈছিলে। আৰু সেইখনেই আছিলে পথাৰ, যিখন পথাৰত সেই ধৰণৰ কথা হৈছিল। আনহে নালাগে একত্ৰিত কৰিবৰ কাৰণে একে শত্ৰুৰ বিপক্ষে প্ৰতাপ সিংহ স্বৰ্গদেৱে কুৰুৱাবাহী সত্ৰ পৰ্যন্ত মানে তেওঁলোকে স্থাপন কৰিছিলে। গতিকে উজনি নামনি বুলি কথা এটা সেইখিনি সময়ত নাছিল, সেইখিনি একেলগে আছিলে সকলোখিনি। হয়, সেইখিনি সময়ত সৰু সৰু ৰাজ্যবিলাক সকলোকে কৈ, কাৰণ আমাৰ ৰজা এই কথাষাৰ কৈছে প্ৰতাপ সিংহৰ সময়ত একেলগে মোগলক থ্ৰিটনিং দিওঁতে আমাৰ মানুহখিনিয়ে একেলগে আমাৰ ৰজা বুলি কৈছে, আমাৰ ৰাজ্য বুলি কৈছে, সেই অসমীয়া বুলি কৈছে। সেইখিনি কথা প্ৰতাপ সিংহ স্বৰ্গদেৱ ডিউৰিং দ্য টাইম অফ প্ৰতাপ সিংহ, দিছ ৱাজ the growth of Assamese nationalism,
Okay,
Assamese state was made.
Dr. Sampath wants to add something here. In his book, he has also talked about how the Ahom king requested for some sort of alliance. I think you have talked about how Sakradhar Singh wrote to the Raja of Coach Bihar, right? If you can say something, please.
Yes, I think that's a very important point, that the Ahoms not only regrouped themselves, but they also understood how to make a at least eastern alliance against, the Mughal invasions. So the negotiations that were held with the Rajas of Kuch Bihar, Jaintia, Kachhar, all of that. But also importantly, one more thing which, in the course of my research I found that even, in a letter that the Raja, Jayadhwaj Singha wrote to the Raja of Kuch Bihar, this is dated 7th February 1666. Chakradhwaj Singha, he says, sorry, not Jayadhwaj. He talks about, we were talking about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. In the letter, he talks about Shivaji. And he says this, you have sent the verbal message informing me that war had commenced between Shiva, he calls him Shiva, Shivaji and the Mughals, and that Shiva, having defeated the Mughals, had pushed them back to a distance of 20 days' march, that Daud Khan had fallen and Dilir Khan is wounded, and that the Badshah has come from Delhi to Agra. It cannot be predicted as to who becomes vanquished, who becomes victorious. You have further informed me that you are engaged in putting your forts and dikes in order. You have asked us to strengthen our fortifications. Because the Mughals have humiliated us once, does it follow that we should make no attempt to throw off this position of subordination to them? So not only were they making alliances, he was very, very aware of the political situation across India, and that Shivaji Maharaj was also being an inspiration for the Assamese resistance. I think that is an important point.
Thank you, sir. Professor Handy, would you like to respond to what Professor Bhattari has talked about? Yeah. Particularly, he was talking about role being played by Kirti Chandra Narayan, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very important part of, the history, and thanks for pointing out that. And I'd like to ask the chair if I should answer the question that you asked. Yeah, please. Yeah, I think...
I was asking a question to you, you can answer that also.
Yeah, I think it is about the significance of this celebration of 400th year of birth anniversary of Lachit Borphukan here in New Delhi. This is very significant from the historiographical point of view also, because so long Lachit Borphukan, or for that matter the heroes or the narrative of history in Assam and Northeast has been looked upon with from a regional perspective. Lachit Borphukan has been eulogized. We have seen him as, whenever there is any problem, we always remember him. We always try to draw inspiration from him, and we try to, in a way, get emboldened, get sort of energized with the events of Battle of Horaighat. Horaighator Ron, Lachit Borphukaনৰ তেওঁৰ যি শৌৰ্য বীৰ্য তাৰ দ্বাৰাই আমি সদায় স্মৰণ কৰি আছোঁ, আৰু সেইটো সদায় it will remain. But why this is important is that now Lachit Borphukan is sought to be seen from the national perspective. He is one of the foremost military generals of India. That is the bottom line, and I think that is the honorable government has done actually a great, I should say, service to historiography as well by bringing this to light and having these panels here with that intention of bringing out these regional heroes into the national limelight. And I think history will be rewritten from that perspective,
okay,
where the people of, otherwise this is very important. I'll just take 30 seconds, because we always have this sort of complaint that we are not understood by people of other parts of India. Why? Because Assam or Northeast doesn't figure in the school textbooks. Students down south or in Delhi, they don't know. After finishing their school education, they don't know about Assam, much about Assam. So that is the reason. In my speech, I also told about the NCERT textbooks where these matters should come up, and that's
okay,
the reason.
Yeah.
I hope this
publication
anniversary will be a turning point.
Particularly role to be played by NCERT could be an important game changer. Dr. Chandra Prakash Dwivedi ji, आपको कुछ point if you have to make, particularly, sir, have you thought about?
मैं मुझे 1 मिनट दिया था, मुझे ध्यान नहीं था, इसके लिए मुझे माफ करिएगा. Thank you.
नहीं, वो 1 मिनट का साथ भी, if you want to make a depiction about Lachit maybe along with other production that you are making, sir.
मैं तो चूंकि सिनेमा का आदमी हूँ और मैं समझता हूं कि भारतीय दूरदर्शन को भी बहुत लंबा समय हो गया अब, और उसके बाद भी हमने इस तरह के कोई प्रकल्प यानी आसाम का इतिहास को लेकर नहीं देखा। सो कहीं न कहीं फिल्म मेकर्स, सरकार, इन सबको साथ में आना पड़ेगा। मैं मानता हूं कि किताब लोग पढ़ते हैं, लेकिन जैसा हम जानते हैं कि अभी जो डिजिटल क्रांति हो रही है उसमें टेलीविज़न है, वेब सीरीज़ हैं, सिनेमा है, वो एक अलग अनुभूति देती है, और उसमें किस तरह से हम इन कहानियों को ट्रांसलेट करें, लोगों तक पहुंचाएं। मुझे लगता है सिनेमा उसका एक माध्यम है, ऐसे बहुत सारे माध्यम हैं, उसका एक माध्यम है, और इसलिए मैं इस मंच का उपयोग करके सरकारों की ओर से भी कहूँगा, कई बार मैं सोचता हूँ कि एक विद्यार्थी अपने स्कूल में 6 घंटे होता है, और उससे ज़्यादा 6 घंटे से ज़्यादा वो टेलीविज़न देखता है, 6 घंटे से ज़्यादा प्रतिदिन वो वेब देख रहा है। यानी आज उसका गुरु टेलीविज़न है, वेब सिनेमा है, तो क्या हम कुछ ऐसा कर सकते हैं जिससे देखने की इस वृत्ति में हमारा इतिहास भी आए? तो मैं अब तक मैंने किया है, कोशिश करूंगा आगे भी। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. Food for thought given by Dr. Chandra Prakash Dwivedi ji. Well, yeah, I'm coming to you, Professor Sandan Sharma, then Dr. Mahanta. Yeah. And particularly, I request our students who are coming from various parts of Assam, and Manoniya Hangkhod Tasa Dangoriya Hat Dangi ase, I'm coming to you. Yeah.
Sure, this is a question to the chair itself. From neglected historiography of Northeast to an integrated national historiography, what we need is not just emphasis on few important events, but what we need is a comparative and parallel developments across India that should be done across ancient, medieval, modern. We need not just importance of few events, but when we teach ancient Indian history, parallel developments in Northeast India should be incorporated. In the same way, medieval, parallel developments in Northeast India should be part of it. When we teach it in terms of colonization by the British, the colonization of Northeast India is absent. So what we need is a comparative and parallel developments to be an integral part of this.
Thank you, sir. Point well taken.
Yes.
Your argument is there is some sort of compartmentalization between ancient, medieval, and modern history, and Northeast history need to be incorporated. Yeah. So it is well accepted. Mr. Mahanta, then we are coming to Honorable MP Tasa Dangoria.
Namaskar, Suprabhat.
Apunar porichoy di lok.
More naam Dr. Devajit Mahanta. More a question now is just observation and suggestion. Through our moderator, sir, one most important word in our life is we, but least important word is I. So my question related to the I. Guwahati Vishwavidyalaya Dr. Bhupen Hazarikar namot share ase, jiman dur moi gyato. আমি এনেকুৱা চিন্তা কৰিব পাৰো নেকি, এনেকুৱা আৰম্ভ হ'ব পাৰে নেকি গুৱাহাটী, ডিব্ৰুগড়, তেজপুৰ আৰু শিলচৰ ইউনিভাৰ্চিটিত মহাবীৰ লাচিতৰ নামত আমি শ্বেয়াৰৰ কথা চিন্তা কৰিব পাৰো নেকি?
Thank you, thank you. A point well taken. I believe it will be taken into consideration by our education department. Honorable Minister Education is also there. We'll definitely contemplate and we'll discuss about the issue. And Honorable MP, Chairman Tasa Dangoria.
Chairman Aji Hansalok Dangoria, Aro Amar Onkogonkari Dwivedi Dangoria, Aro Sampod Dangoria, Apuni Budhoy Koi Dibo, Ami Lasit Borphukon Homporke Hokoloe Jano. আৰু অসম চৰকাৰক ধন্যবাদ যে তেখেতে আমাৰ মুখ্যমন্ত্ৰী ডাঙৰীয়া ইয়াত ইমান ধুনীয়া অনুষ্ঠান কৰিছে, যত অমিত শ্বাহ ডাঙৰীয়া, প্ৰধানমন্ত্ৰী ডাঙৰীয়াকে ধৰি সকলো আহিব। মোৰ কোৱেশ্যন এটাই যে আমি যেহেতু লাচিত বৰফুকনক জানো, তেওঁ বীৰত্বৰ কথা জানো কাৰণে আমি ইয়াত বহিছোঁ। হোৱাট এবাউট দিছ ইণ্টেলেকচুৱেল ছেকশ্যন অফ গ্ৰেটাৰ ইণ্ডিয়া, তেওঁলোকে লাচিত বৰফুকন ডাঙৰীয়াক ভাৰতবৰ্ষৰ প্ৰেক্ষাপটত কেনেদৰে বহিবৰ কাৰণে তেখেতৰ ধৈৰ্য বীৰ্যবিলাক প্ৰকাশ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে কেনেধৰণে সহায় কৰিব, তাৰ সম্পৰ্কে কি সাজেশ্যন দিব মই আমাৰ মাননীয় সম্পদ ডাঙৰীয়া, সিং ডাঙৰীয়া আৰু দিব্য ডাঙৰীয়া কোনো জানিছো।
Okay, sir, what he is asking is, how can you contribute to the popularization of Lasit Borphukon and other heroes of Northeast India in general and Assam in particular. Am I right, sir? So it's anyone can answer, particularly addressed to you, sir.
I think that's an excellent question, sir. And at the risk of sounding like, I'm plugging my book, I just have a new book out called Brave Hearts of Bharat, vignettes from Indian history. The other gentleman also mentioned that you need to integrate all these stories across India. So this book does something similar. It takes 15 people, heroes and heroines, unsung heroes largely, from different parts of India, from Lalitaditya Muktapida of Kashmir, of whom we know so little of, Rani Naiki Devi in Gujarat, Rana Kumbha in Mewar, Rudramma Devi from Warangal, there is Rani Abbakka from Karnataka, Marthanda Varma from Kerala, Velu Nachiyar from Tamil Nadu, Rajarshi Bhagyachandra Jai Singh from Manipur, Banda Singh Bahadur from Punjab. And in this galaxy of great heroes and heroines, Lachit Barphukan is also situated in that. That immediately makes it a national history. What is this whole story of regional history, as Sir was mentioning in the NCERT textbook? What is mainstream, what is regional? On the one hand, people who've written the history of this country keep telling us that there was no concept of India, the British gave us India and all of that. Till then we were all disparate states fighting with each other. If that is true, then what is central India and what is regional? How can you call the Cholas or the Pandyas regional? How can you call the Ahoms regional? But a Lodhi or a Tughlaq who just ruled over a few kilometers in and around Delhi, that becomes mainstream. That becomes central India. And all the other stories are regional stories. So I think this mainstream, regional, this itself should be dispensed with. And it is all the history of Bharat and all these heroes, without getting only into the regional, local context, situate them in a national context and then integrate them in lot of popular books like this, which many other scholars and historians should write, which will bring, I think, these stories into public.
Thank you. So core-periphery dichotomy is to be done away with. Yes, sir.
I am Biswajit Das from Assam. So I have a specific question to Mr. Bikram Sampat. So why the mainstream historian totally neglected Mahabir Lasit Borphukan and Ahom dynasty for last couple of years? Why? What is the basic reasons?
Okay, we'll take 2-3 questions together.
Yes,
then
sir.
I'll request our panelists to answer them.
With the permission of the moderator, so I'm Dr. Susengfa Gogoi.
I don't see. Susengfa. I'm coming to Susengfa then. Susengfa very crisp, to the point.
Yes, sir. I'm Dr. Susengfa Gogoi. I am coming from North Lakhimpur College, Autonomous Assam. I have a question to Bikram Sampatji. You have mentioned about the systematic silence that we see in the majority, the mainstream historians of our times. And this systematic silence was also coupled with myth making that has been seen during the colonial period of historians. My question is very specific. Because of this myth making and systematic othering that has been made by the mainstream historians, we see that there has been a collective generalizations and myths that has been created, and a collective memory about the silence of these regional, histories. Now, what do you suggest, like how this memory that we have already created from one generation to the other, how it is possible to create a new space in the memories that we have imbibed from one generation to the other by looking at the mainstream memories, and we have to give a space to the regional memories? This is my question to you. And I have another question.
Because we have many people, kindly
thank you so much.
Thank you. Anil Saikya Dangoria. Anil Saikya Dangoria. Yes, please.
Shall I? Can I?
Mic to us, madam. Yes, please.
This is Meeta Nath Bora. I am convener policy research from BJP Assam Pradesh. My question is to Dwivedi sir. Entertainment, long back you said entertainment has always been educative until the penetration of all those, question mark and all, and what it has become today. So we are all discussing about Lachit Borphukan, making him a national icon. And I believe in my own perception, he was greater than Shivaji. Shivaji was finally defeated by Nasira Khan, but Lachit Borphukan was never defeated. One of the best way to reach out to almost across pan-India is movies. We know about it. So when are you going to script and direct a serial on Lachit Borphukan on national television? And why just a serial? Why not a movie for international?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, you answer, then we'll come to the last round. All of them, we'll let our panelists answer this question, then we'll come. Yeah.
I agree with you. Give me some time. I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
please.
So the first question that was asked as to why Lachit Borphukan has not been featured or forgotten, I think I mentioned in my intervention that I see it as a dual reason. One is tyranny of distance. Assam can be struggling under floods, but that will not be covered even by the mainstream media. Some JNU university, some people are fighting, that will become national news. Whatever happens in and around this place it occupies so much of national imagination. So one is this, it is too far away from national memory and national imagination to catch attention. The second is, these are stories of courage and resistance and fight. In the manner in which historiography has been written largely by the Marxist tradition, we have only been made to celebrate our losses. Our students will know by heart all the battles we have lost, from Battle of Tarain, Battle of Buxar, Battle of Panipat Wars, Anglo-Maratha, Anglo-Sikh, Anglo-Mysore, whatever, all the wars we have lost, we have memorized it. But Battle of Saraighat, Battle of Kolachal, Battle of Diwar, Battle of Kasarhada, all these things don't even come in that national memory.
Okay.
Which I think can be corrected, and as the other gentleman said, through a lot of scholarly work, through popular work, through the media and popular culture. I think that is the only way that today in the information age, where information is available so extensively to people, can these stories come out and become mainstream and not remain secluded in regional histories.
Thank you, sir. Anil Soikia Dangoria, yes.
Yes, I am Anil Sekia. My question is very short, either to Dr. Rajiv Khandikoi or to Sangita Gogoi. What is the role of Bagh Hazarika in Khoraighatar Juddha?
Okay, thank you. Very important question. Yeah, I'll come to you. Then we can take two more. Mr. Borwa. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, your question, please.
Yes, my name is Poonam Kumari Singh. I am from JNU, and sir, for your kind information, the color of JNU is changing rapidly. And I just wanted to ask that whether a home dynasty is being taught in in our schools, has it been incorporated in NCERT's syllabus or not? This is what. And it is very much clear with your interaction that it has not been incorporated yet.
Okay.
So I think it should be.
Thank you. Last question.
মই SLSৰ প্ৰতিনিধিত্ব কৰি আহিছো
হয় কক প্ৰশ্নটো কক প্ৰশ্ন
খৰাইঘাটৰ যুদ্ধত বিভিন্ন জাতি জনগোষ্ঠী বিভিন্ন অঞ্চলৰ পৰা যুদ্ধত অংশগ্ৰহণ কৰিছিলে হদিয়াৰ পৰাও যুদ্ধ আহিছিলে আৰু সেইসকলক যুদ্ধৰ শেষত সেইসকলক হদিয়াত প্ৰতিষ্ঠিত কৰা হৈছিলে ঠিক তেনেদৰে অসমৰ বিভিন্ন প্ৰান্তত যোদ্ধাসকলক প্ৰতিষ্ঠা কৰা হৈছিলে হদিয়াত বছাগাঁও নামত প্ৰতিষ্ঠা কৰা হৈছিলে আজিৰ তাৰিখত সেই যোদ্ধা পৰিয়ালবিলাকৰ কিবা খা খবৰ ৰখা হৈছে নেকি বা সেই পৰিয়ালবিলাকৰ স্থাপিত বা
অনুগ্ৰহ কৰি বহক থেংক ইউ আপুনি খুব গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ কথা এটা কৈছে সংৰক্ষণ এটা গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ দিশ মই সকলোকে বিশেষভাৱে কৃতজ্ঞতা জনাইছো সময় কম আৰু আমাৰ ৰাজেশ কুমাৰ সিং ডাঙৰীয়া he has also talked about attack is still continuing in different forms and manifestation. If you can just talk about it 2-3 minutes, and it's over to our esteemed panelists to give answers to the questions which are asked to them. Of the contemporary challenges that we have. Yeah, Rajiv and Hongita Baido, I think Bagh Phukon is a very critical question.
I mean, there are many.
আমি ইতিহাসৰ ছাত্ৰী আৰু ইতিহাসেই পঢ়াই আছো ইতিহাস বৰ মানে ইটছ ভেৰি ক্ৰুৱেল সঁচা কথা ক'ব গ'লে বাঘ হাজৰিকা সম্পৰ্কে ইতিহাসৰ পাতত আমি আচলতে নেপাওঁ ই মানুহৰ কথাৰ ভিতৰত আছে আৰু যেহেতু আমি সেইফালৰ পৰাই ক'ব লাগিব অফক'ৰ্ছ আৰু আমি যদি এটা বস্তু দেখোঁ দ্য ছিষ্টেম মই সেইকাৰণে প্ৰথমৰ পৰা কৈছোঁ মানে অসম বুৰঞ্জী বুজিবলৈ হ'লে আহোমৰ ট্ৰেডিশ্যনেল লেংগুৱেজত থকা বুৰঞ্জীসমূহ বুজি পাব লাগিব তাত আহোম ছিষ্টেমটো বুজি পাব লাগিব আৰু সেইটো বুজিলে গম পোৱা যায় দে ৱেৰ ভেৰি ষ্ট্ৰিক্ট তেওঁলোকে কেতিয়াও তেনেকুৱা ধৰণে নিজৰ কাষত বেলেগ মানুহ ৰাখি নিশ্চয় নথব অফক'ৰ্ছ এটা কাম তেওঁলোকে কৰিছিলে তেওঁলোকে দূত হিচাপে চুলতান গৰিয়া আমি নাম পাওঁ যিখিনিক তেওঁলোকে লগত পঠিয়াইছিলে মোগলৰ কেম্পলৈ হয়তো পাৰ্চিয়ান ভাষা জনাৰ কাৰণে বা কিন্তু তেওঁলোকৰ লগত সম্পূৰ্ণৰূপেৰে সেইখিনি সময়ত ফুল মানে তেওঁলোকক পৰিবেষ্টিত কৰি পঠিওৱা হৈছিলে কিন্তু ভেৰি চৰি to say, আমি কোনো ধৰণৰ ইনফৰমেশ্যন হিষ্টৰিকেল চ'ৰ্চত বাঘ হাজৰিকা সম্পৰ্কে নাপাওঁ।
Hello, excuse me.
Thank you, বাইদেউ। মাননীয় আমাৰ সাংসদ দিলীপ শইকীয়া ডাঙৰীয়ে কিবা এটা সুধিব বিচাৰিছিলে নেকি?
Excuse me, sir.
লাষ্ট হিচাপে।
Mohanto sir.
No,
excuse me.
please, we are running short of
This
time.
is not a question, just a suggestion to be attended.
Please.
Hello.
মাননীয় সাংসদ দিলীপ শইকীয়া ডাঙৰীয়া।
ৰেসপেক্টেড চেয়াৰ, মই এটা কথাই ক'ব বিচাৰিছোঁ, যিটো মোগলৰ সাম্ৰাজ্যবাদ বা বিস্তাৰবাদ ক'ৰবাত আজি প্ৰায় 600 বছৰ পিছতো অসম বা ভাৰতবৰ্ষৰ বৰ্তমানৰ যি ৰাজনৈতিক বা সামাজিক সাংস্কৃতিক পৰিদৃশ্য, সেই সাম্ৰাজ্যবাদ যেন অন্য প্ৰকাৰে চলি আছে। গতিকে সেই বিষয়টোক লৈ আমাৰ আজিৰ এই যি গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ আলোচনা চক্ৰ, এই চক্ৰই এটা প্লেজ বা সংকল্প লোৱা উচিত নেকি, যি সংকল্পই হয়তো মোগলসকলে যি ধৰণে আমাক আক্ৰমণ কৰিছিল, আজিৰ যি মোগল ৰূপী একাংশই আমাক আক্ৰমণ কৰিছে, সেইসকলৰ বিৰুদ্ধে আমি যেন সংকল্প ল'ব পাৰোঁ।
So Rajesh Kumar Singh, actually I would like to ask you, what he's asking is, the challenges that we are confronting today are of various nature and various manifestations. So Lachit or, Horaighat or Ron, we are confronting them at various levels in today's time. Can you just elaborate a little bit?
These challenges are there to be seen by all of you. I don't have to explain that to you. I can recall, I have been part of RSS. I am a Sangh Swayamsevak. So based on that, the experience, I can tell you this much. There are 3 challenges that have always been there. The first challenge is of jihadism. The Islamism and Islamists. That's a big challenge we all face. Even now we are facing that challenge. The second challenge is Marxism. That challenge is still being faced. The Marxists have destroyed our history. And someone like Jawaharlal Nehru, he said that, let's talk about 5,000 years of Indian history. What is that 5,000 years of Indian history? Is it Islamist history? It is Hindu history. It is Ahomia history. That is 5,000 years, Chol history. That is 5,000 years old. And that history is not being taught. You asked that question about NCERT books. They teach us to hate that 5,000 years old history. It's happening today. That's the challenge. That how do you stop all this from happening? Because the establishment is ruled by them. The history establishment is ruled by Marxists. The other establishments, the education establishment is ruled by them. That is the second one. The third one is, again, the third Abrahamic religion. The danger posed by the church, proselytization. That's again a dangerous situation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So there are 3 challenges according to me.
No,
and we
sir.
should remember that.
So I have been asked by the organizers.
It might sound divisive, but that's the reality. That's the reality.
No,
Respected
I'm
chairperson.
gone away from reality.
Panelists.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Politically correct. Political
Thank you. I have been asked to conclude this session with profound gratitude and thanks. I thank all the panelists for your kind views and presentation, and my sincere gratitude to our dorshokok bishekbhabe moi dhonnobad janaisu apnalokor interesting question. Yes, I know we have many questions to ask, but this is not an event. We must keep the memory of Lachit Borphukan alive. This is not an event. This is a process. So with these words, big round of applause to our presenters. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now it's over to the organizers for their announcement. Thank you.
That was indeed a very robust dialogue that put Assamese history as we have come to know it in perspective. Thank you so much. On behalf of the organizers, we would now like to felicitate our esteemed panelists and the moderator. A small announcement. I'd request all present to kindly partake of the lunch. I'd request all yellow card holders and officers to proceed to the Annexe building. Other invitees are requested to proceed to the lawn. দুপৰীয়াৰ আহাৰ গ্ৰহণ কৰিবলৈ মই সকলোকে অনুৰোধ জনাইছোঁ য়েলো কাৰ্ড হোল্ডাৰ আৰু অফিচাৰসকলক এনএক্সি বিল্ডিঙলৈ যাবলৈ অনুৰোধ জনাইছোঁ আৰু বাকীসকল অতিথিক লনলৈ আগবাঢ়ি যাবলৈ অনুৰোধ জনাইছোঁ My sincere thanks to all of you for being a valuable member of this event. We would also like to express our gratitude to the members of the media and all those who have worked tirelessly to make this event a grand success. Thank you so much.